Welcome to Up and Away, the restaurant marketing podcast, saving the world from bad marketing, brought to you by Qubriux, the all-in-one platform for loyalty and customer engagement. In today's topic, we're going to talk about email marketing for restaurants, some best practices, automation, and building email lists. We have Arun, who's the founder and CEO of Qubriux. He's a tech veteran with over 2 decades of experience. Before being a part of Qubriux, he was the principal data scientist and architect for developing Starbucks' personalized customer engagement platform. We all know you got the app on your phone. And I'm Rev Ciencio, hospitality marketing consultant, tech evangelist, content creator, and co-founder and CMO of Handcraft Burgers and Brew in New York City. Now, look, if you know me, you follow my content, you know that I absolutely love email as a marketing tool. I talk about it all the time, and I have several frameworks on how to optimize the performance of our email marketing. I believe that it is the easiest, most affordable, scalable way to drive the retention of your guests. It's far easier to run an effective email marketing program to stay top of mind than it is by comparison to like social media. But that is a rabbit hole we are not going to go down right now. Let's just assume that you're on board and you want to learn more ways to be effective with email marketing. Great. That is what we are here to help you with. Arun, you've done a lot of work in helping restaurant brands with email marketing. Is this a game for like large multi-unit brands, or can independent and growing brands with a few locations also be effective with email marketing?
Of course, independent brands, especially local brands, they are very effective with email marketing. So here's the reason. So email marketing, depending on two aspects, primarily the success. One is the mind share that your customers have about you. Second is the relevance of emails you send. So if you're a local restaurant, your mind share immediately in the locality is supposed to be good. It is high. And then there is no reason that a big brand should be having a much higher success with email marketing than a local brand. There are a few more things. One thing is that how much of top of the funnel you're generating. So if you're only looking at the accuracy or the percentage of the open rates and click rates alone, the more locally you go, relevant to smaller locality into your store, you might find higher open rates and click rates. But as you expand further into the geography, then your click rate might go low or your open rate might go low, but you're also onboarding new customers. You're making yourself known to farther away customers. So of course you can actually be as successful or more successful than a larger national brand, especially if you're locally well known.
Amen. That is a whole other discussion, but I believe that marketing is a game for local marketing is a game for restaurants at the local level to win. It's not a game for large and multi-unit brands. It's much easier to be a part of your community when you're actually a part of your community. Let's go down this for a second. When you say top of funnel, how do you define that, or how do you see it as it relates to this topic?
So top of the funnel is the total number of customers you begin with in sending your email marketing, correct? Theoretically, if you expand the top of the funnel, that means the more number of people you try to reach out, your open rate and click rate will proportionately fall, okay? Because what will happen is that at the expense of trying to get to newer customers, you're also getting to customers who are not very relevant for you. So in science, statistics is called the precision versus recall problem. For example, if you send 1,000 emails targeting customers who are in your 2 square miles radius, you will be successful. And let's say that 500 of them might sign up your loyalty program, or they will open your email. But let's say that now you're targeting, let's say, 10 square miles away. Then what will happen is that you'll proportionately send more email, let's say, to 10,000 people. Okay, maybe only that out of those 10,000 people, only that 2,000 people might click, right? But what happened here is that you still increased your recall. That means you still acquired more customers. You still is not more number of people at the cost of relevancy, at the cost of reducing your click rate overall. So you still, you got 500 customers when you targeted 1,000 relevant, customers in the locality, but you expand to 10,000. You additionally onboarded another 1,500 customers, right? But of course, 1,500 out of 10,000, your click rate or open rate will be low, but your overall reach is still higher, versus 500 out of 10,000 is like 50%. It's much higher click rate. So if you only look at click rates, you might miss some points here. That basically you reduce your recall. That's what it is. You need to balance your
Let's unpack that a little. I want to make sure that I understand. I feel like I'm learning something new here, and this is very exciting for me, who loves email. What a dork. If I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that essentially the closer a guest lives to the store, the higher the open rate for that particular guest, and that the further away a guest is from the store, the less likely they're going to open emails on a regular basis. Am I hearing that correctly?
No, that's not what I'm
Okay.
saying, right? So what I'm saying what I'm saying is that the closer they live, that means they have a higher mind share for you. That means they pass in front of your store every other day, so they know you. So when they see an email from you, highly likely they will open it more. Versus the farther away you live, your mind share for the restaurant is less, right? You don't see them often and you don't remember them often. So what happens is that when you expand the top of the funnel, when you try to reach to farther away customers, you probably will see that out of, let's say, 10,000 people, you might see that, that the open rate or the click rate it has fallen dramatically, because you try to reach out to people who are farther away. Some of them are still interested in your brand. Let's say they're commuting to work in front of your restaurant, even though they are 10 miles away. So you are capturing all those customers, but also you're also sending emails to a lot of irrelevant customers who do not have mindshare about it. That's what I'm talking about. So
okay.
Yeah, does it make sense, Rav?
What would be the instruction you would give a restaurant about collecting email addresses from guests as it relates to this like geo-targeting type of conversation? Like what would you say to somebody how to do this?
Well, collecting email lists would be like, of course, you'll start with people who are coming into the restaurant. Of course, they are your customers. So what I was talking about is that sending emails to people who necessarily would not have visited your restaurant per se, right? So that's a secondary strategy where you get customer list from a third-party database or something just to get your emails out. But they're not necessarily part of your loyalty program, or they would not have visited your restaurant, but this is purely for a customer acquisition strategy. But for collecting emails for customers who are visiting your store, they're already in your store. So the click rate, expected click rate from those customers will be necessarily high. They have, their experienced your brand already.
Okay, this is very interesting, Arun. I feel like I'm about to learn something that I've never thought about that actually logically makes a lot of sense. So let me make sure we unpack this. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but what you're saying is that the closer somebody lives to a restaurant location, the higher likely they're going to open an email from you, correct?
That's right, yes.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought about that today. That makes a ton of sense because they're driving by the restaurant. They're already kind of top of mind or mind share, like you say. And by reminding them more often, like, oh yeah, I do want to go there, versus, I live 10 miles away. You send me an email, and I go, oh yeah, I like that place, but like it's 10 miles away. I don't go that often. Right? That's where we're going?
Exactly, right.
Okay, so what's the key here? Like, how do I know? Like, is it about collecting zip codes, or like how do I sort my database like that?
Of course, you collect this zip codes for the customer when you collect the emails, and that will give you an understanding about the likelihood of the click rate and the opening your email.
Okay, this is a fascinating thought. My brain is like exploding here. Okay, so let's say that I'm going to create a scenario. Let's say that my restaurant brand sends a weekly newsletter. My restaurant brand, we do. But let's say we send a newsletter every Wednesday. It's just general, check out this menu item, join loyal, whatever, every Wednesday. If I was sorting my database by proximity to the store, which is what we're talking about here, would you recommend that I send that email to everybody, or do I have a different cadence for people who live further away than live closer? On a regular newsletter, just like an every week, or should everybody get it?
I think as long as there are two aspects. One is that if you're sending this one same newsletter, right, that's going to be, the audience is going to be same, the content is going to be same. So in that, it doesn't matter. You can send them in the same cadence. Okay. You don't have to have separate cadence for sending to people who live far away versus nearby. That could be same cadence. Okay. What when it matters is that, let's say you have certain email budget. Okay, let's say that this is the email budget I have for this week. You want to ensure that maximum number of people open the email, maximum number of people convert from that email. Then you actually focus on people who are shown like higher conversion from the same locality. But if you don't
Okay,
have the budget constraint, then it doesn't matter as much.
send it out. Okay. Very, very interesting. Okay, let's talk about this. You kind of sort of went into this, but I think it's important to clarify for everybody that's listening here. Where do you believe the email fits in the customer journey? Like, is it discovery? Is it retention? Is it where does it where does it live in the funnel?
I think everywhere, in the sense that email is a communication channel. It's one of the important communication channels. So every touch point, let's say you want to nurture the customer, you want to send them birthday rewards, you want to thank you for their first purchase. They just onboarded to your loyalty program. So every touch point you have, I think, as much as any other channels, email is an important channel. So you don't have to distinguish email as a separate thing when it comes to customer engagement. It could be newsletters, it could be personalized rewards for birthdays, anniversaries. So wherever the other channels are applicable, I don't see that email will not be. I mean, email is as applicable or more for any customer engagement.
Yeah, but I guess what you're saying is it's a really dynamic retention tool, correct?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Amen. And so but essentially somebody's already had, for the most part, somebody's already had an experience. We've collected their email address, whether we'll get to how to do that later. It aligns to different parts of the retention funnel. It could be just top of mind. It could be getting them back in. It could be LTV increase.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How does email complement other marketing channels? So social media or SMS or loyalty or whatever. Like, where do you see email as being complementary in the marketing ecosystem?
So what we have seen is that there are certain cultural nuances also when it comes to email. I mean, certain part of the world do not respond as well to email. But in the US, US is in email is a very significant channel. Pretty much everyone opens their email. So as long as you keep it relevant, the content has to be relevant. If you're sending let's say if you're sending a promotional offer, the offer has to be relevant. If you're sending a particular newsletter, that has to be relevant for their context. So as long as you keep it relevant, it fits very well. Social media, specifically when it comes to social media, it's better. It's a little more squeezed towards acquisition versus email is much more towards retention because the customer already knows you. It's not a cold email, right? They're already with you. So I would say that especially in retention, loyalty management, email fits is even more important than actually other channels like social media.
I would totally agree. I tell people all the time, if I have your email address, there's a lot I can do. If I don't have your email address, there isn't much I can do.
Exactly.
So like if I want to grow my follower count on Instagram, by example, I can send an email to my customers and be like, follow us on Instagram. And if I want to have higher loyalty adoption, I can send an email to my customers that says join loyalty or whatever the thing is. So yeah, to me, loyalty is the most important because it can drive the other actions of other channels. I totally agree. What would you say are some effective strategies for capturing email addresses? Like how do we all probably have some ways, but how should restaurants get more email addresses from their guests?
I think the first thing is that an explicitly known consent. Like they have to consent that they have to be known that you're capturing their email and then they're okay with sending emails. I mean, that's very big. Otherwise, very quickly, your domain will fall into the spamming category. So that is something which they should be open to.
Let's pause there. Sure. That is a very good point. I'm glad you brought it up. I wouldn't ever recommend that a restaurant email somebody that they didn't acquire them through an opt-in. Right. So if somebody has like a local list of blah, 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 and they give it to you, like you shouldn't email those people. Right. That's what you're saying. They have to have opted in some fashion or form.
Correct. Right. I mean, what you just said that, I mean, there is a strategy, this totally different aspect of this customer acquisition strategy through email. That's very totally different strategy, right? We're talking about retention marketing in the email, and that's where it is mostly effective. So collecting emails is one thing. Yeah. Once they express the consent, and that could be through your loyalty program or through your signing up for your website when they order from your website or through if you have an app, or it could be things like Wi-Fi, and then when you connect to your Wi-Fi store. I know that Ravi, you got a very effective strategy there, and I would love to know more about collecting emails through Wi-Fi. I mean, that's something has been very effective. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. So I like to joke all the time that I'm not sure if we serve hamburgers or if we're an email collection machine that serves hamburgers. We have at Handcraft Burgers and Brew, I think we have 9 ways to collect email. We've prioritized it, but I agree. I think number one is, I took your online order. To me, that's an opt-in. I got your email address. We do that. We definitely do the loyalty thing as well. But yeah, one of the biggest things that works for us, in fact, 34% of our email list has been built from free Wi-Fi. And I hear all the time, like, oh, people have unlimited data now and they don't care. I'm like, I have data to prove the opposite. Like people want free Wi-Fi. And so like at Handcraft, we just have instead of having like the free Wi-Fi and the password thing on the wall, which is one way to do it, or waiting for the guest to like interrupt my server while they're trying to take care of another guest. Hey, what's the Wi-Fi password? And they got to go get like a sticky note from the kitchen. Like, oh my God, no. We just turn it on. So we have Wi-Fi available, and when you turn on the Wi-Fi on your phone, you see, Handcraft Burgers and Brew free Wi-Fi. You don't have to ask any questions. You don't have to scan the dining room for a password. You just hit next. Little pop-up comes up, it says put in your email, opt in. That's it. Now I don't have to have a sign on the wall, right? I don't have to have my servers interrupted, right? The guest doesn't have to ask any questions, and I'm collecting email. Arun, no joke, we add probably somewhere between 75 and 100 emails per week to our database. And I want to be clear for people who don't know my restaurant, it's not full service. It's a quick service restaurant. People are with us for like 18 minutes. We do a ton of list building through free Wi-Fi. I highly suggest that for everybody. People want it, man. People just want it.
exactly. I mean, the crux of what we just said is that, typically the collecting email activity has to be an auxiliary activity with the main activity. It's like a main activity, like signing up for Wi-Fi. Then I'm giving my email, or you could have a event in the restaurant. Let's say a New Year specific event conducting in your restaurant, and then as part of it, you can actually signing up for this event, give me your email, and then also explicitly ask for consent. Or what can might not work very well is that if you ask for email in isolation, just like, hey, give me your email address, then customer might get upset, right? There must be an auxiliary main activity. Okay, I'm going to send you some offers. Are you okay to give me your email? Hey, here is the Wi-Fi. Please sign up with your email. That's a better strategy.
Yeah, it's an
So,
exchange for sure.
yeah, it's an exchange, and customers have to know that it's an exchange.
Okay. I'm going to ask another question here that I think might open a Pandora's box. So let's try to dial this in as much as possible. You're like the segmentation master. No, the scene in the Matrix at the end of the Matrix when Neo finally sees the Matrix and it's all green and black and he dodges the bullet. I feel like that's how you are with email. Like you see it in a way we don't all see it. So I want to ask a question about segmentation and personalization at like a super high level. I hear marketers talk about it all the time. Oh, you got a segment. Oh, you got to personalize, blah, blah, blah. And like nobody hands you a playbook. Like nobody says, oh, this is how to do it. Like what at a very high level, what is the value of segmentation and personalization? And then what are maybe like a couple of examples that could help people get started with it today?
Right. Okay. So segmentation is at a high level is grouping your customers to achieve a specific business objective from them. For example, I might segment simple segments like new customers who just made the first purchase in the last 10 days. Let's say they are my new customer, or my lapsed customers who have not visited my restaurant in the last 60 days, simple segments. If you take these two segments, they have different business objectives, to be treated with. Let's say my objective with new customer is to transition them into a loyal customer, make them come back again. If it's a lapsed customer, my objective is to win them back. So you have different objective here itself. Let's say if you're loyal customers, your business objective could be different. So the importance of segment is that it defines a particular audience for a particular objective, what you want to do. Secondly is that it also says what kind of content you have to send to them. So if you are a lapsed customer, if I have a win back campaign, you know that I will have to send those win back campaign to not all the customers, for a specific set of customers who are lapsed, who have not visited my restaurant in the last 60 days. You don't want to send that kind of an email to your high spending customers, for example. That could be a totally different objective. So if you don't segment, that means you don't have a specific strategy. The moment you establish a strategy with an email, then segmentation goes hand in hand. Okay, that summarizes on the segmentation part. So the next part is the personalization. So once you define the segment, let's say you are trying to win back, and then the segment is your labs customer. Within those communication, you want to personalize, starting with simple like hi, starting the email with hi name, hi rev, or hi row, high top, right? That itself is the basic personalization. Then you want to personalize if you're sending an offer in the win back campaign, you want to ensure that each of those customers gets a right relevant product, right relevant discount in that offer. You don't want to say, let's say I'm a vegetarian and you're trying to win me back. You don't want to give me an offer for a hamburger, right? That's going to offend me. So once you establish the segment, the personalization comes in treating each of those customers, understanding their preference and establishing individual connection with each of those customers within that segment. Okay, so segmentation helps you in finding the audience for your objective of campaign objective. Personalization helps in make those content relevant. Make sense?
Yes, sir. Okay, so a first-time guest, that makes sense, right? One time but not returned, that makes sense. Hasn't been back, lapsed, that makes sense. You know what I think the biggest bucket of opportunity is for restaurants in terms of segmentation? Lots of people will tell you lapsed guest is the biggest opportunity, and that makes sense, right? Most people visit a restaurant one time, they never come back, right? A lot of people will tell you that guests that have been once but not twice is the biggest opportunity. I don't agree with either of those statements. I think the biggest opportunity is also defined by the ease of moving the opportunity forward. And I think getting guests from second visit to third visit is actually the biggest level of opportunity, because sometimes people visit a restaurant once because they don't live there. They're passing through or they're visiting. And there's almost no way for you in your CRM to know that there's almost no way, right? But if somebody's been twice, the likelihood that they live or work near your restaurant is pretty high, right? Like if they've been twice.
Yes.
So, and it means they liked it because they came back, right? So I think the opportunity for restaurants, again, lapse is important, welcome's important. I totally agree. Converting second to third, I think, is the biggest and best opportunity available in personalization segmentation, because they've already proven they've liked it. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, that's absolutely right. So I've read many statistics where it says that generally in the consumer-facing industry, retail, restaurant, etc., it takes on an average 4 or 5 visits before a customer transitioning from that new mindset to a loyal mindset. Hey, this is my restaurant, right? So the objective for a new customer, you have to ensure that they come back to make those second, third, fourth, and fifth, or even sixth purchases. So you will need to nurture him to make that. And that's where the importance of automation, let's say email automation and other automation, comes in picture. So you set that, set and forget, but that you set those journeys and then forget about it, and automation takes care of it. Yes, so that's a very important opportunity, and it's very important because you need to ensure some of the key metrics is that your retention metrics, right? Month over month, you need to ensure that your retention metrics at least keeps flat or goes up. So that means the customer who visited last month also visit this month, and also going to visit next month. If you don't achieve a declining retention rate, means is that your restaurant is losing customers, right? So it's important that you nurture the new customer, and then comes your bigger the second biggest opportunity is your like regular loyal customer. So it's important that they get if you have a loyalty reward program, so you send emails related to loyalty, and they are achieving certain loyalty milestones, etc. But even for that, there is opportunity in terms of revenue, which is upsells and cross-sells to your loyal customers, or simply by nudging them to increase their average weekly visit frequency. Or say that certain customers are only coming up for lunch, find those, create a segment out of them, and say that enable them to come to dinner or other important day parts. And these are all the opportunities you have out there, because they have already proven that they like your business, they like your restaurant, they like the food. You just need to nudge them to spend more or visit more.
Amen. I think we could rip the open conversation on this, go really, really deep. Do you have a theory or calculation or formula on how you suggest restaurants determine what like churned or lapsed versus about to churn is?
Yes, actually, so these are all well-known matrices, right? So your lapsed customers that you can define somewhere like it's a function of your frequency of visit, right? So let's say if you're a coffee shop, maybe your average frequency is at least once a week, versus if you're a fine dine, that frequency could be once in 2 weeks or once in a month, right? So depending on your average customer frequency, how often you can say that, 4 times that frequency, if they have not visited, let's say on an average, customer visits every once in 2 weeks. That means if they have not visited in 3 or 4 such interval, that means in 2 months, then that's a lapsed customer. So
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I think you just dropped a massive golden nugget right there. I want to make sure that I understand. So you're saying understand the frequency of the guests themselves. So my frequency might be different than your frequency, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
And then essentially, if I go 4x my frequency, I'm lapsed or I'm about to lapse. Is that correct?
That's right.
That is a golden nugget right there. So if you guys didn't hear that, you want to understand each individual guest behavior. So like if Arun goes weekly and I go bi-weekly, right? That would say then the 4x is when you want to give them the offer. So if Arun goes weekly, 4 weeks go by, he doesn't come, boom, it's time, right?
Yes.
And if I'm bi-weekly and I go 4x, which is 8 weeks, that's when the offer comes. Yeah?
That's right. Again, don't take the 4 as literally, right? It could be a little bit of 3x, 5x, but
Okay.
approximately around that neighborhood, right? I mean, to get to the final aspect of whether it's 3x, folks, you need to do some testing. It could be, but approximately take that. But the idea is same, right? If you
Sure, but if I've not done it, if I've done any good testing, that's a good place to start, right?
Exactly.
Amazing. All right, Arun, we are running low on time here, and I have 7,000 other questions about email. Can I make a suggestion?
Sure, yeah.
Can we do a second part? Like, can we do, this is episode 1, we do episode 2, we just continue this conversation. You into that?
Absolutely.
All right, I think on our next conversation, let's talk about best practices for like subject lines, email copy, visuals and marketing, storytelling, key metrics to track. Is that good? We'll do a second conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. That's great.
Awesome. I love it. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the conversation, can you please share this episode with a friend who might also find it helpful? And then come back for the second part of this conversation as well. And if you really did enjoy this conversation, can we please ask one favor, and that's give us a rating in iTunes. It helps us to spread the word to others who might find this valuable just like you. And for more like this, please don't forget to hit the subscribe on your favorite podcast player. We'll talk to you at episode 2.